Let me tell you why the Edmonton Oilers, one of my all-time favorite teams when I was a kid during the Gretzky era, will never, ever, ever win a Stanley Cup under the current ownership and leadership. Ever, ever, ever. Michael McLean, the Michael McLean Show, thank you for joining me on my new channel. I am a former professional hockey coach, former amateur championship hockey coach, turned 8-figure entrepreneur. You can download a free copy of my brand new book, Unfuckwithable, 5 Ways to Unfuck Your Life in the Next 30 Days. A word of warning about my new book. This book is not every entrepreneur's cup of whiskey. This is a simple 22-page PDF, my free gift to you. You can read it in 25 minutes. But I wrote this book for champions, not for chumps, for winners, not for whiners. If that's not your cup of Earl Grey, that's perfectly okay. So I sat down the other night for 5 or 10 minutes. I don't watch pro sports anymore. I don't watch entire football games. I don't watch anything to do with the NBA. I'll watch a few minutes of a hockey game. I'll watch a few minutes of a Bills game or a Chiefs game, depending if I have a few minutes. But I no longer participate in pro sports, even though I was a minor pro coach, and it's transformed my life. I don't waste my precious and finite time on hours and hours of watching pro sport. So it was interesting. I stopped and I watched Hockey Night in Canada the other night, Saturday night, a rare night that my wife and daughter were away at their theater production party. So I was at home by myself on a rare Saturday night. So I made a fire in the fireplace and I sat down, I put my feet up and I turned on the TV and Hockey Night in Canada, like I grew up watching. And it was the Edmonton Oilers playing the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is very exciting. I get to watch Connor McDavid, the greatest player in the game today. I get to watch the Leafs. I've always loved the Leafs and Hockey Night in Canada. The only thing is missing was the great Don Cherry. So I watch a few minutes and boom, right in front of my eyes, I discover why, even though they went to the finals last year, and I predicted they would lose Game 7 against the Florida Panthers, which they did. I predicted that they wouldn't win last year. But right in front of my eyes, I discovered why the Edmonton Oilers, under the current leadership and ownership, will never, ever, ever win a Stanley Cup with Connor McDavid there. And I love Connor McDavid. I think that he is an outstanding player, an outstanding guy off the ice. He's an incredible role model, great person, just an ambassador for the game. I mean, these clowns, these punch-drunk tomato cans in Edmonton have had that special generational franchise transforming talent for 10 years. This is McDavid's 10th year, and this is his 5th head coach. You imagine? Every 2 years, a different voice in the room. How the hell can you build something when every second year you're firing a coach and you're bringing in another guy? That shows you lousy ownership, lousy leadership. And now they're back at it again with a new coach last year. And 10 years into his incredible talent, I mean, this guy's a Sidney Crosby level player. Like this is like drafting Shaq or having one of these number 1 picks in football come to your program. So what happened that revealed this team is not winning jack shit is sports is a brotherhood and sports is a sisterhood. And when I won my last championship in 2019 with my Perth Blue Wings hockey team, it was all about the brotherhood. I knew we had a chance to win because of the brotherhood. Our team had a code. We had the hockey code going for us. We were a brother. We covered each other's backs. We supported each other. We loved each other. We were all in all the way. And I've had lots of teams that didn't have that brotherhood. You know, you had a locker room full of guys that didn't give a shit about anybody but themselves. You can't win like that. So what happens on Saturday night? I'm watching the play, and Darnell Nurse, you probably don't know, but He's Edmonton's best star defenseman. I'm not a Darnell Nurse fan. I think he's a TM. I think he's a turnover machine, but nonetheless, he's a $10 million player for them. He makes 10 sheets a year. He comes around the net. Of course, he's got his head buried in his chest. Guys don't protect themselves anymore. They think the referees are supposed to protect them. They think that, nobody's supposed to hit anymore. And they don't take accountability for protecting themselves, getting their hands up, getting their fucking head up, getting their elbows up. Because a guy's coming to kill you, right? So guys are like victims now. So Darnell Nurse comes around the back of the net. He's got the puck and he's got his head down, buried in his chest. And Ryan Reeves, who is an enforcer, one of the last enforcers in hockey on the Toronto Maple Leafs, comes flying in. Reeves, no intention to hit Nurse in the head, but absolute powerhouse comes in and he finishes his check. I mean, he literally runs over Nurse. And it was one of the most violent hits I've seen in a long time. As soon as I saw it on TV, I was like, wow, Nurse is out. Like, he was knocked out. And there was blood, and he nailed him right on the button. He hit Reeves' shoulder, hit Nurse right on the chin, which is totally against the rules. It shouldn't be allowed. Headshots should not be allowed in any sport. But I don't believe for a second that Reeves intended any of that to happen. He just missed. He missed him with the shoulder, and he got him with the other shoulder. But Ryan Reeves is held accountable. He's been suspended 5 games. It was a 5-minute penalty. He got kicked out of the game. The referees did their job. The league did their job. And Ryan Reeves would never, the man he is, he would never, ever complain about that. I'm certain that a guy like Ryan Reeves is just grateful that he didn't kill Nurse. But Nurse coming around there with his head down. Ryan Reeves is on the ice. He's a fucking freight train. And he was trying to do his job of finishing his check. And unfortunately, Darnell Nurse got injured. He'll probably, his coach said, out for 10 days. But soon as that happened, here comes a guy on the 4th line, Ryan Reeves. He runs over one of your captains, one of your leaders, one of your most important players, one of your brothers, and nobody did a fucking thing. I couldn't believe it. I was sitting there. Don Cherry must be at home, walking the floor. Fred Shero must be rolling in his grave. Because where's the code in hockey where somebody crushes one of your best players, whether it was intentional or not, bloodies them, knocks them out cold, and nobody does nothing? Well, in this particular case, the reason nobody did anything is the 6 guys on the ice for Edmonton, they're too fucking afraid to go anywhere near Ryan Reeves. Because you got to fight him, right? And in today's game, it's not like the real fights anyways. You hug him, you give him a bear hug, and the linesman will come in. So you don't even have to fight a guy. You could make it look like you did. But not one person. Ryan Reeves stood there. And then he went to the penalty box, and then the rigmarole. They look at it in video. He gets 5 minutes. He gets kicked out of the game, and he's gone. And they didn't score on the power play or any of that stuff. But I'm talking like if that team didn't shrink that much, when you have a team of guys that don't stand up for each other, that you're afraid and you don't have your brothers back, that's the kind of stuff that bleeds into the locker room. It bleeds into the playoffs. Could you imagine the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers if somebody had run over one of their top players like that? I mean, a guy he's going to code up. He's going to fight Reeves right there, and you're going to lose. But you know what? You're going to grow a foot. You're going to grow a foot in stature in that locker room. That's an opportunity to stick up for your friend, your brother. And I mean, in Florida, I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't multiple fights on the ice. Could you imagine back in the old times when Fred Shero was coaching the Broad Street Bullies, the 2-time Stanley Cup Philadelphia Flyers, and somebody, let's say one of their best any player, came around the net, and somebody from the Boston Bruins or somebody from the Montreal Canadiens runs over one of their players like that, knocks them cold? Are you kidding me? There would have been 20 fights on the ice. Philadelphia would have emptied the benches, and they would have been held accountable. The other team, it would have been a Donnybrook, and that's the way Shiro coached. But same thing with Don Cherry in Boston. Can you imagine if Bobby Orr came around behind the net? Not like Darnell Nurse could even carry Orr's bag because he couldn't. But he come around the corner and somebody knocks Orr out. Like, are you kidding me? Everybody would be fighting everybody. And it wouldn't happen again. You would send a clear message inside your locker room into the other team that ain't going to happen. You imagine if somebody had done that to Gretzky in the 80s or 90s? Somebody comes around and knocks Gretzky out? Semenko would come to your fucking house. You imagine if somebody knocked Stevie Y, the Detroit Red Wings star, out like that? Bob Probert would put you 6 feet under. Like, it just didn't happen, and if it did, you were held accountable. That's the code in hockey. Same thing in football. Like, if somebody takes a liberty like that, whether it's intentional or not, you got to answer the call. The emasculation of pro sport is pathetic. It's pathetic. Like, hockey barely has fighting left in it. Like, I coached the least penalized teams in junior hockey, the least, because my guys were the most mentally disciplined. But every year we would have the least number of penalties. But we had the most lions. We had the most lions on our team. That's called peace through strength. We had team toughness. Edmonton has no team toughness. Montreal has no team toughness. These teams have no team toughness. So teams, guys like Ryan Reeves, can run over whoever they want. Nobody's going to do anything about it. You know, the Boston Bruins with Grapes, team toughness. The Detroit Red Wings with Bob Probert and McCarthy's team toughness. The Philadelphia Flyers, Stanley Cup champions, team toughness. The code was, you touch one of us, you touch every one of us. And those guys were brotherhoods, and they built brotherhoods, and they were Stanley Cup champions and Stanley Cup contenders because of it. You can do whatever you want to Connor McDavid, because nobody on that team, those are mice. Those are sheep. Those aren't lions. They're not going to do anything, you know. They're not going to. They show that on Saturday night. But it's a mice into men world we live in right now, where everybody is mice into men. The mice are now into men. They're on their keyboard, on Twitter, Twitter tough guys, you know, social media tough guys living in their mom's basement because they're not held accountable. If that guy had to come outside and he had to stand toe-to-toe with the guy that he's tearing apart, that he's spreading lies and rumors about, those mice into men disappear. And that's why it's important that you have fighting in the game. My guys, we had the fewest fights. We had the fewest penalties the 5 years I coached because I had team toughness. I had 23 guys in my locker room, my championship year, that could go at the drop of a hat. And because they could, there was no fights. I don't think we had 2 fights the whole year because we had team toughness. And when it came to the playoffs, we were able to play hockey. Our stars were able to play. It was safe. Nobody was dirty. Nobody was chippy. We played the sport the right way because we had peace through strength. A country's no different. You have peace through strength by your military. You have peace through strength through your borders. You have peace through strength through your policing. And we've gone away from all of that, and we got to get back to it. But pro sport, I mean, that NBA, there's a reason 28% viewership decline. Nobody can watch that shit anymore. That's mice into men, that league. That's mice into men. Baseball, mice into men. And, you know, the NHL now, a lot of these teams, these lousy franchises, mice into men. But the code, I mean, like the championship teams still have the code. The Florida Panthers have the code. Colorado had the code. Las Vegas had the code. Touch one of us, you touch everybody. But the emasculation of sport, especially the NBA, no wonder 28% of people have turned it off. It's unfucking watchable. So that's my punch drunk tomato can video of the day. The Edmonton Oilers are wasting Connor McDavid. I can't believe that guy hasn't asked out. He's a proud Canadian. He wants to make it work in Edmonton. He loves being an Oiler. But there's got to come a point in his career where he says to himself, you know what? I got no chance to win a ring here. I got no chance. He's into a decade now with 5 coaches. and then you sit on the bench and you see that kind of shit, that could have been him. And not one person would have done a thing. He's got to get out of there. I'm as pro-Canadian team as you can get. He's got to get out of there. He's got to get to a team that their sport is winning, where there's brotherhood and where he can be protected and respected. Get the hell out of Edmonton, Connor. Get the hell out of Edmonton. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. You can download a free copy of my book, 5 Ways to Unfuck Your Life, below, brassballsvideo.com. You can also join my daily email newsletter at the same site, brassballsvideos.com. Be brave, be fierce, and be relentless.